Consumer Price Index, February 2023. Transmission of material in this release is embargoed until 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday, March 14, 2023. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPI-U, rose 0.4% in February on a seasonally adjusted basis, after increasing 0.5% in January, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Over the last 12 months, the All Items Index increased 6.0% before seasonal adjustment. The index for shelter was the largest contributor to the monthly All Items increase, accounting for over 70% of the increase, with the indexes for food, recreation, and household furnishings and operations also contributing. The food index increased 0.4% over the month, with the food at home index rising 0.3%. The energy index decreased 0.6% over the month as the natural gas and fuel oil indexes both declined. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.5% in February, after rising 0.4% in January. Categories which increased in February include shelter, recreation, household furnishings and operations, and airline fares. The index for used cars and trucks and the index for medical care were among those that decreased over the month. The All Items Index increased 6.0% for the 12 months ending February. This was the smallest 12-month increase since the period ending September 2021. The All Items Less Food and Energy Index rose 5.5% over the last 12 months, its smallest 12-month increase since December 2021. The Energy Index increased 5.2% for the 12 months ending February, and the Food Index increased 9.5% over the last year. Food. The Food Index increased 0.4% in February, and the Food at Home Index rose 0.3% over the month. 5 of the 6 major grocery store food group indexes increased over the month. The index for non-alcoholic beverages increased 1.0% in February, after a 0.4% increase the previous month. The indexes for other food at home and for cereals and bakery products each rose 0.3% over the month. The index for fruits and vegetables increased 0.2% in February, and the index for dairy and related products rose 0.1%. In contrast, the meats, poultry, fish, and eggs index fell 0.1% over the month, the first decrease in that index since December 2021. The index for eggs fell 6.7% in February following sharp increases in recent months. The Food Away from Home Index rose 0.6% in February, as it did in January. The index for limited service meals increased 0.7% over the month, and the index for full service meals increased 0.6%. The Food at Home Index rose 10.2% over the last 12 months. The index for cereals and bakery products rose 14.6% over the 12 months ending in February. The remaining major grocery store food groups posted increases ranging from 5.3%, fruits and vegetables, to 12.4%, other food at home. The index for food away from home rose 8.4% over the last year. The index for full-service meals rose 8.0% over the last 12 months, and the index for limited service meals rose 7.2% over the same period. Energy. The energy index fell 0.6% in February, after increasing 2.0% in January. The natural gas index decreased 8.0% over the month, the largest one-month decrease in that series since October 2006. The fuel oil index fell 7.9% over the month, following a 1.2% decline in January. In contrast, the gasoline index rose 1.0% in February, following a 2.4% increase in the previous month. Before seasonal adjustment, gasoline prices rose 1.7% in February. The index for electricity increased 0.5% over the month. The energy index rose 5.2% over the past 12 months. The fuel oil index rose 9.2% over the last 12 months, while the index for electricity rose 12.9%, and the index for natural gas increased 14.3% over the same period. The gasoline index decreased 2.0% over the span. All items less food and energy. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.5% in February, after rising 0.4% in January. The shelter index continued to increase, rising 0.8% over the month. The index for rent rose 0.8% in February, while the index for owner's equivalent rent increased 0.7% over the month. The index for lodging away from home increased 2.3% in February. The shelter index was the dominant factor in the monthly increase in the index for all items less food and energy. Among the other indexes that rose in February was the index for recreation, which increased 0.9%, and the index for household furnishings and operations, which increased 0.8%. The airline fares index rose 6.4%, ending a string of 4 consecutive declines. The index for motor vehicle insurance, the index for apparel, the index for personal care, and the index for new vehicles also increased in February. In contrast, the index for used cars and trucks fell 2.8% in February, continuing a recent downward trend. The medical care index fell 0.5% in February, after falling 0.4% in January. The index for physician services continued to decline, falling 0.5% after declining 0.1% in January. The hospital services index and the prescription drugs index were unchanged in February. The index for all items less food and energy rose 5.5% over the past 12 months. The shelter index increased 8.1% over the last year, accounting for over 60% of the total increase in all items less food and energy. Other indexes with notable increases over the last year include motor vehicle insurance, plus 14.5%, household furnishings and operations, plus 6.1%, recreation, plus 5.0%, and new vehicles, plus 5.8%. Not seasonally adjusted CPI measures. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPI-U, increased 6.0% over the last 12 months to an index level of 300.840, 1,982 minus 84 equals 100. For the month, the index increased 0.6% prior to seasonal adjustment. The Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, CPI-W, increased 5.8% over the last 12 months to an index level of 295.057, 1,982 minus 84 equals 100. For the month, the index increased 0.5% prior to seasonal adjustment. The Chained Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPI-U, increased 6.2% over the last 12 months. For the month, the index increased 0.6% on a not seasonally adjusted basis. Please note that the indexes for the past 10 to 12 months are subject to revision. The Consumer Price Index for March 2023 is scheduled to be released on Wednesday, April 12, 2023, at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.